Forgive me, please. For brother, you got married without letting any of us know. You hold the whole village.
Did I get you?
You got me on the first. I was in the bathroom. Alex comes in with the phone. He's like, "Did he just get married?" I'm like, "Shut up." I'm checking. I'm like, "No way." He says, "Look." And this is when I text you, Reverend, and you didn't respond. And then Theo and Nathan were going crazy in the group. They didn't respond. Man, this is so odd. Then I remembered that you were telling me the single is coming out. So this is what happened. You posted a second one and you said something, "Forgive me again." It was a second post, "Forgive me again." Then I remember that "Forgive Me" is releasing, and I remember you telling me I won't be able to record this until Thursday because I have video shoots.
Yes. Hiding things in plain sight.
Yes. And then Alex and I were talking. We're like, okay, I know he's doing some promo for this. This is definitely part of the promo. But this guy is so nuts that I could actually see him live that role authentically and get married. And it's like he could actually do that. Kind of like when Heath Ledger actually became the Joker. He lived that role a little bit too much, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, man, maybe this guy is just committing, going all in. And it's like, yeah, it was a marketing thing, but guess what? I actually got married.
That would have been a good one as well if I'd have managed to pull that off.
I thought you may have done this, but then I was like, nah, man, I don't think so. But most people did. Bro, you had congratulations. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
dude.
people were calling me, texting me. My mum and dad didn't know. My sister didn't know even until the day of. I still was keeping it going. I needed to keep it just 3 or 4 people knew.
Wow.
And then ignoring everybody that was messaging me and asking questions and stuff.
How was that?
Kind of fun, to be honest.
Yeah?
Yeah. Because I was like I knew.
But with your parents and stuff, how did you feel about that?
Well, yeah, my brother eloped, so it's kind of in the family, and they were. I think my dad kind of had a sense. My mum was just like, I don't know what he's doing. They knew that I'd eventually tell them or own up, but I don't know whether they were convinced or not. But either way, it was a fun game to play. And
you got the attention you wanted.
And it worked.
It's a lot of attention.
It really worked. Yeah. That's the first time I've ever done
You just dropped the mic and you left, bro.
Yeah. But it was kind of, there was still enough things in there where it was kind of obvious that it was something going on, like the fact that she was covering her face and everything.
Yeah, for someone that really knows you, maybe, but a lot of people didn't think so. They were probably just thinking you want to keep it a little bit private.
Keep it a little bit private, yeah.
Keep it a little bit private. You got so many messages of people that were convinced. You're such a great guy. You absolutely deserve it.
It's hilarious, man.
Who is the lucky one?
My best mates back home as well, they were convinced.
No way.
It's most fun to see the people that are closest to me be convinced. Because they were they were just having a go at me in these group chats. I can't believe you did that.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you tell us? You got to be kidding.
Nathan called me too. He says, bro, what did Brother Eatson do? I'm like, dude, I don't know. He may have, but also he has this single coming out.
That's all we needed. We needed people to speculate.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the whole point of the attention
you get
and
all
currency.
The attention.
Yeah, it's just prodding people and then letting them come up with their own ideas. It was a master plan, and I didn't come up with that idea. That was one of my friends.
Okay.
I knew I wanted to do something with emotion maxing. So a lot of the publicity stunts that people pull, like what Justin Bieber did when he released his album a week before, he set up a publicity stunt. Mm-hmm. And he did the paparazzi that come and have a go at, they come and take pictures of you. So he came out of a restaurant and he'd set up a paparazzi person to be there, and then kicked off. Basically was like, leave me alone, I'm just trying to be with my family, this, that, and the other. I'm trying to be a father. And then it took hold. Certain people, went behind and was supporting, leave him alone, he's trying to be a family man. And then other people are saying, you need to learn to control your temper. Just enough, basically. You do just enough to prod. And that's what we were trying to do with this as well. Same kind of thing, same kind of concept. And hats off to my friend Eric who came up with that.
Sick.
He's a stylist, a creative designer, and he just thinks along those kind of lines. He's worked with a record label before, so he was like, I wanted to do this with an artist, but the record label didn't want to do it. He pitched the idea to me. I was like, I'm game. What do I need to do? He
amazing.
directed the whole thing as well. I was just
No
like,
way.
tell me what to do.
He's the guy from Beer.
Yeah. He was in New York the whole time. And I was just messaging him in. He was sending me like Pinterest boards of ideas of like, take these kind of pictures. And then I just arranged with the girl basically to get the pictures taken. And
Who was the
then-
girl?
Girl called Anissa. She works at one of the venues at Omnia. She's been to a bunch of the Morning Wood events. She does a bit of content. I was struggling to find someone to do that. At last minute notice, we had 5 days until the single came out. I had to find a wife in 5 days. And then get all the pictures taken and get a wedding dress and a fake ring and all this kind of stuff. We ordered it all off of Amazon and returned it.
How long did it take you to film all this and take the pictures?
A day.
One day?
An evening, basically. Like, we probably met up about 4 o'clock and we did pictures and videos till 9ish.
Phenomenal.
So, a couple of different locations.
Did it? So the single dropped,
Single dropped on
Forgive Me
Wednesday.
dropped.
Yeah, this week.
and did you feel like it made a huge difference in terms of reception?
Yeah.
Because you've dropped a lot of singles in your past.
Yeah, but
right?
this was the first time I've ever done a tailored like story narrative to the rollout with a focused kind of vision on what it was going to be. Before, I've just made content and then kind of made it fit the song. This was like all centered around the lyrics, all centered around the forgive me, I've done something that I shouldn't have done kind of thing. But a light sort of spin on that. Because we could have gone, like Jack wanted to do a fake obituary, but like that's pushing it too far. Like we're really going to upset some people. This was like, we got them. They were happy. It was the right type of emotions to play with.
Dude,
Hilarious.
fantastic. It was
Yeah,
great. Well done, man.
Really chuffed, man. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Sick. So what's the plan now with the single? What are you gonna? You're gonna play tomorrow, right?
I'm playing it tomorrow. Yeah, I'll get some videos of that. I've got a guest mix next week on the label's radio show, so I'll be playing it again in that, and then
Okay.
just playing it as much as possible and talking to people about it. And I'm just writing "Forgive Me" on lots of comments and stuff. I'm just being a bit more active on responding a lot more on Instagram. It's almost like this last couple of weeks, I've really viewed Instagram in a different light, rather than me putting stuff up there which I thought would be cool or trying to keep up appearances to some degree, which I feel like there's definitely some pressure to do, of like making sure I'm posting every day and making sure I'm putting up things of what I'm doing, you know, DJing and producing. But this was what Instagram was for me. This was fun, playful, more engaging, more entertaining, more of a laugh for me. Just win-win all round. It made it be like, oh, this can be fun. This can be my business thing and be centered around what I want to promote, but also be a good time at the same time and not be stressful and not be pressure of like, oh, I've got to post something. What's it going to be? Because there's a lot of I'm in a lot of group chats with a lot of producers and artists, and most of the time they're whinging or moaning or concerned or stressed or anxious about having to post and that being a part of their career, and they're just like, you know, it should all just come down to the music. Yeah, it should, but you know, you have a voice to be able to talk about your music in other ways as well, and you can do that in a visual way, and you can do that by creating stuff with other cool people. Like, tell people about what you're up to. Like, Eric wouldn't have known that if I hadn't have had some conversations with him about it. And yeah, you've just got to kind of put yourself out there a bit.
Did you write the track yourself?
No. The lyrics were written by a girl called Georgie. She lives in Hertfordshire in England. And we'd known about it for ages. It's just we finally kind of finished off the production side of things and then got it signed. And I've always felt like, especially because of the sentiment behind the lyrics, you know, we need to ask for forgiveness all the time. We're creatures that do things by desire, whatever that thing might be. So we need to kind of, and also the interesting thing as well, listening to Neville Goddard, his take on forgiveness is really beautiful, and it's the thing that you told me about with revising the day, going back over it, visualizing what you could have done better, reviewing that process. You know, being back in the grocery store where you snapped at the person, and then doing it the right way around, living it in your imagination the way that you should have done in the flesh. That is the letting go. That is the forgiving part of it.
That's not how anyone understands forgiveness, though.
I know it's not, but when it's
Forgiveness,
explained that way, it
Yeah.
really does. And yeah, that was so good.
Forgiveness, for most people, means either you forgive yourself for doing something bad, or you're forgiving someone else for hurting you. People think that's forgiveness. But Neville is saying, anytime something didn't go as you would want it to go, just revise it in your head, whether it's an action of your own or an action of someone else. If someone snaps at you at the grocery store, envision them saying, oh, nice buzz cut, nice outfit, have a great day. Like, revise it that way. So it's kind of related to this Jewish term for sinning, which is kata, which is missing the aim. The aim being how you desire it to go. If you were living your life that you desire to live, a happy life. And so anything that deviates from that, you revise it, and that he labels that forgiveness. It's a very unusual way to look at forgiveness, because it's anytime you do that, when you're actually in imagination and you do that, do you feel a certain emotional relief? Do you feel like a little bit of tranquility when you revise your day in that way?
Well, I think if you view it that way, it allows you to release any tension that you've associated with whatever it is. Like, if you had an argument with somebody, what you really want to achieve is getting to a point where you can agree to disagree and accept each other's point of views, and then let go of it and move on with a more positive frame of mind. I think a lot of these, everything to do with forgiveness. Like, if I think about things in my life that I want to forgive myself for, things that I've done in the past, I have to be okay with myself right now. I have to let go of that version of myself and not berate it, not be angry with myself, because I'm here now. The question really is have I learned from that? So if I haven't, if I'm still talking badly to myself about these things, or if I'm still associating negative feelings to it, then I've not dealt with it. Mm-hmm. So the more I can revisit that experience or that scenario in my head, in my imagination, and view it again, like it's almost like dream. It's almost like dreaming. They're very close, the dream and the imagination, I think.
You're also revisiting the situation that maybe otherwise you would try to avoid. If you think about it from an exposure therapy standpoint, you're going to a point of pain, something that didn't go well, and you're exposing yourself to it. So when you do that already, you're releasing some type of negative emotion associated with the event. So forgiveness is maybe less of an action of saying you're forgiving, but more so a sensation associated with a situation or a scenario or a circumstance, event, or a person that creates this stress internally.
I like the way that he splits the words up as well. It makes a lot of sense to me. Life is for giving, not for getting.
Okay. You always say that.
I know, and I love it so much because it makes so much sense to me now. Because again, my ego part of me wants to get as many things as I can in life. Spanish lattes, money, chicks, whatever else. But if I frame myself in the giving state, that's service, that's Jesus. So, like, that's the best way for me to approach this kind of thing, is to understand it from that point of view. It's not about what I can get from any situation or any person. It's about how much I can provide, and that can just be, sometimes that can just be, your presence in a situation, to really be listening to the person that you're with, or to not. I mean, it really comes down to presence a lot of the time, I think.
That's the biggest form of giving, because I feel like most of us, we are in the moment, but we're not really there fully. If you split yourself between your body, the mind, and the spirit, a lot of times we're physically present, not so much mentally, and even less so spiritually. Actually leaning into your own awareness and keeping your thoughts as neutral as possible. it allows you, like you said, to give. You give your full attention. That's, I think, what people appreciate the most, because all of us feel kind of not seen enough. Everyone wants to be seen.
Yeah. But most of it comes down to that. Most of it comes down to that for me, in all of the things that I guess, still to some degree insecure about in my life. Like, I'm not going to pinpoint anything particular, but the things that still concern me are normally around me not accepting parts of myself, or not being okay with elements of who I am, which is kind of stupid, because God made me this way. Like, that's it. You got to understand that you're all of those elements.
So to relate that to forgiveness, what you're saying is that there's part of yourself that you try to avoid, that you don't want to look at, that you need to accept. That's a part of practicing.
Yeah, and it's just noticing those tendencies when they happen. Like, if I get short-tempered or something, it's to catch myself as quickly as possible and then let go of it straight away and try and be back to baseline.
Yeah.
Like when I was telling you about the getting worked up when I was on a phone call before, and you can feel your heartbeat going, and it probably doesn't help. I've had 2 coffees that morning, and like these other things like add into it, but then you catch yourself in a moment and you're like, I shouldn't have said that, or even you just notice that you want to say something and then you catch yourself before you say it, you bite your tongue. But that's all part of the development, and it's okay to think those things. But eventually, like, the more neutral you become, the more at peace you become, those thoughts don't even come in your head as often.
They don't.
And then you can just be. Again, it's about just being, isn't it? The presence thing, presence being the gift. It's just you being and being okay with that. And the more that you flow with it, the easier it is, and the less intrusive thoughts you have, and the more positively you generally think, the more aligned you are.
That requires for you to not have all these interfering thoughts when you're sitting across someone, talking to someone. That's the main thing why we can't fully be present. Because if you have interfering thoughts the moment the other person speaks, you're already taking away from the present. Because again, your attention goes to the thought and then goes back and goes to the thought and then to this thought. And those thoughts are not present, or not as much present, the less desire you attach to the outcome of a specific type of conversation. The more you actually want an outcome associated with a conversation, it takes actually away from your presence. Because then everything you say is going to be evaluated against where you want to go with the conversation. What do you want to get out of it? And then the thought and the doubt creeps in. So really, that presence that you're talking about is most easily achieved when you remove expectation and desire from whatever interaction is you're in, and that's the Buddhist framework anyways.
This is the so if you think about it like a breath, we take a breath in and we take a breath out.
That's another one, actually.
The moment between the two, the liminal space where you're not on the intake or the outtake, that's where you want to be as much as possible, right?
Absolutely.
How do you try and stay within that liminal space?
I think by actually, funny enough, being aware of your breath. The more you're actually aware of your breath, the more you're regulating that cycle. The thing with breath is so interesting. I think it's the most underappreciated tool of spirituality.
Facts.
The breath, what I've noticed is whether I am extremely excited about something, or I'm very angry about something, or a lot of times in day-to-day conversations when we all try to come across a certain way, as you see already, right? I'm not breathing properly. If you actually want to remain calm and neutral, breath is a two-way street. If you get very agitated, yes, you get short-tempered, breath gets shallow. But the other way around, if you actually dictate your breath, your emotional state will follow your breath. So it goes two ways. You feel a certain way, you breathe a certain way. But you breathe a certain way, you're going to feel a certain way. So if you can remember to be, like in this moment, if you can remember to be and lean into that pure presence, and you remove any type of expectation you place on the conversation, that actually slows down the thoughts and eliminates a lot of thoughts, which allows you to be more present. So the breath part in itself really, really regulates how attentive you can be with anyone. And that's why you see some people seem to be cool cucumbers. You speak to them, and it's almost like they don't have to snap back with a response. You know, when someone asks you how you doing, I'm good, man. How are you? That's a reaction. That's not a response.
Yes, true.
And think
I
about
do that sometimes.
all
I
of
realize
us.
that. Yeah.
This is just an example. We do that on autopilot a couple of times per day,
Yeah.
and that's because you have to respond. Imagine you would actually be in a state where you're prepared that this person across is gonna make a comment when you pass by. You wouldn't be like, oh yeah. You would actually be so calm about it.
You'd be welcoming it almost, wouldn't you?
You'd be so calm. It's like, I'm good. So imagine that reaction. So that's someone who is breathing in a very coherent and slow breathing pattern. Because otherwise when someone says something, you snap. It's like immediately. It's like it's this breath in, like you getting out of the rhythm of breathing. And that's why I always like to relate breathing to spirituality literally, because it helps me to remember. Spirit, spirare, to breathe.
Dude, I really love this.
It's just remembering it.
You know,
But-
it's forgiving, not forgetting. So you got to not forget it. You have to remember it.
And that's where you have to remember it, and you remember it the more you understand it. Like if you actually break down spirituality, the Latin word is spirare, is to breathe. But think about how breathing relates logically to spirituality. When we say someone is spiritual, a spiritual person always going to have a certain level of self-mastery. A spiritual person walks above the physical and the mind plane. They almost seem anchored in something invisible that relaxes them, right? Now think about you being able to control yourself and master yourself, which the main part of is mastering emotions, your own emotions. For you to be tranquil, you need to breathe a certain way. When you get aroused emotionally, three things happen. You start sweating, especially when you get very, very afraid. You start sweating, your breath gets more quicker because you have to run away from the line, and your heart starts pounding. But the way to override it is actually to breathe a certain way. I remember when I used to have
Ice
panic
baths.
attacks.
Yeah.
Ice baths teach you that too,
Yeah.
because you go into that physical reaction and you teach yourself to breathe through it. But I remember with the panic attacks, the psychologist used to tell me, you need to remember to regulate your breathing. That will calm down your anxiety response. So when you calm down an anxiety or a rage response, any negative response, you're actually tranquilizing your emotional state, which means you're mastering yourself. When you master yourself, you are a more spiritual person because you anchor yourself. You have control over what otherwise environment dictates you to feel. And that's why breathing and spirituality are connected literally, but also metaphorically, if you can remember that. In the conversation, the more you can breathe, and throughout the day when you walk, breathe, you actually can observe and take in everything around you much more deeply. And then when something approaches you, you're going to be calmer in your response. You're not going to react, you're going to respond. That's always my goal. It's like, get out of your head and breathe.
Yeah.
Be. I am. Be.
I'm even just trying to do that while you're speaking, because there's an impulse that I want to butt in, add something to what you're saying, agree with what you're saying.
Yes. At the next line.
I'm like trying to finish off sentences, and I'm like, no, I've got to just listen here. I find that that's probably the thing I need to work on the most, is becoming a better listener, instead of trying to always be participating in the conversation. I mean, the best way for me to participate in the conversation is to wait until you've fully finished, and then even give another gap after that to kind of let it settle. And
Yeah, and we could probably talk about that. Why is it that we don't want to have gaps in conversations? Why do you think?
I think it's the same reason as why we reach for our phones. I think we don't like the feeling of silence or boredom or whatever else it is. I think we're trying to fill in the gaps, and we're all so hyper-stimulated all the time that any off the acceleration of that feels awkward. I've got to feel that.
And that's a 100% part of it. It's also another part of it that I know from myself is there's a discomfort associated with sitting across someone and having silence. Because What is the person thinking of me if I don't contribute? I need to sound smart. I need to understand what he's saying, and by saying something that reflects that I understand, and he doesn't think I'm an idiot. All of these insecurities are tied to that. Right? If you really purely want to be aware and listen, you need to embrace those parts of yourself, which is also again part of the forgiveness, is embracing your totality. Because the moment I speak just in order to be perceived a certain way, I'm trying to avoid the things about myself that I doubt, because maybe I need to sit and process, or maybe I don't have anything to say. Being comfortable with that is self-esteem, right? That's confidence, and that's actually the awareness. That's being there, not just for the sake of just putting something in the middle, but being fully present. Because otherwise, again, there is an expectation tied to the conversation. Being perceived a certain way.
Yeah.
Getting them to like you, getting them to promote you, having the guy offer you more money for your gig. You can't have just a moment of silence if that's omnipresent in your head. You can't. Because that completely goes against that goal. So you'd have to be aware of what you're doing and just say, all right, let me remove that expectation. Forget that. Not placing importance. Importance, desire, and fear. Those are the three things that take us away from just chilling. Just chill.
Yeah. It's so weird, isn't it? Because we feel, at least I do, that I've got to keep filling these things in, and I'm not in the hustle culture, but I kind of am in my own environment. I'm constantly feel like I can, but I feel like I've got to constantly be doing some stuff that's furthering my goals, and when I'm doing stuff I feel good about it, and then I make moves in all these different areas of what I'm creating or whatever. But a lot of the time when I take moments to just sit back and let my work do its talking for itself kind of thing, things come towards me. But if I'm constantly over here trying to do all these other bits, I may miss, things that come right in front of my face.
For sure. And I don't think action or a lot of action is necessarily a bad thing. I think it's neither good nor bad. It really depends on your amount of presence while you actually complete the action. Because if you're doing this and your mind's already on the next phone call, and the next phone call you're already thinking about the gym later, in the gym you're already thinking about the day after, you're separating your presence from the action. That's the problem. You can fill your day with action, but practicing the presence with the action, I think, is the main thing. That's what gets you there. That's what gets you to things more quickly and makes you feel accomplished too. Because I know you, for example, specifically are someone, you really thrive off the fact that you had a productive day, that you woke up early, you worked out, you did all the things you wanted to do. And that's brilliant. And it's, again, doing that, you're conscientious, you're orderly, you're structured, all of that's a big personality trait for life success. But life success doesn't necessarily mean emotional freedom and peace. So you want to couple that with the presence while you complete those tasks.
Yeah.
Not removing your state of mind to what it is you're doing. That's the main practice, I think. Rather than slowing down, is let me go at the pace, but remind myself to be present. And again, I think it's why is it that I'm asking you now? Why is it that we're at the gym and we're already thinking about thinking about the conversation earlier, or we're thinking about the coming conversation tomorrow, or the gig you play in the club tomorrow? Why do you think that is, that we can't just be present with the task on hand?
I think it's the natural predictive processing of the way our brain works, I guess, and we're trying to set ourselves up for as much knowing as we move forward into the next possible tasks by trying to figure out what the future may hold, but we just can never figure that out. We can only just let the future come to us and be most open to receive it as we can.
So it's like when we're in the moment and it's a low risk situation, we're going to the gym, we've done that 100 times. There's no risk here. So now my mind goes, let me reduce future uncertainty by doing all of these subconscious and possibly also conscious calculations. So it goes there. So part of it is, on a biological level, we're tying the event tomorrow or the thing tomorrow as an increase in likelihood to survive. Like if we do this gig well, then we're perceived well, then we make more money, and then we can live a better life, and we're going to be happier ultimately, right? All these things are tied towards this one action that we're thinking about on autopilot, which again brings us back to placing overimportance on the event tomorrow. Like we're reducing our presence in the moment and the joy of the moment because we're placing a lot of importance on the event tomorrow. But we're getting caught in that perpetual cycle, because then we're tomorrow, and then when we're at tomorrow, we're thinking about tomorrow again, and left again, and right again.
We're placing ourselves in different places, aren't we? It's interesting because, like, I know for a fact that you listen to a lot of, and you consume a lot of your content, audibles, books, podcasts, while you're on the treadmill. So I know you're doing the one thing, but rather than just, being happy, not thinking, you're like, no, I've got to engage with something as well as the exercise.
Exactly correct. That's exactly it.
Me too, bro.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I find that it feels better for me to be like, right, I'm going on my walk now, but I couldn't do the walk without my headphones in and also listening to a podcast or an audible, because that way I'm killing two birds with one stone. Mm-hmm. But surely it would be better for me to just have the walk and the walk be just that.
That's so true. I'm exactly in the same boat, and it's almost like I'm on the treadmill sometimes an hour and a half, 2 hours, most days, and I walk and I'm listening to a podcast or an audible, and I actually ask myself exactly that same question. It's like I'm actually moving away from being spiritual, because in that moment, why am I consuming this? I want to know more. Why do I want to know more? Well, if I know more, I will understand all of this better, and then in the future, I'll be a very spiritual person. And also, I might have some interesting stuff to tell Mark later on that will help both of us be spiritual, and it's going to be interesting on the podcast and whatnot. It's the same illusion that we'll be complete tomorrow if we just do this today. That's the illusion.
Yes, bro.
With life in general. Not understanding that sense of completion, we already are that. But in order to actually realize that, we need to remove these illusory clouds that it's this book, or it's this diet, or it's this partner, or it's this car that's going to make you feel like that. Once you do that, you go into your state of completion, because that's your nature. Your nature is love and tranquility. And it's getting there through that sense of awareness, full awareness. And that full awareness can only come in the absence of placing too much importance on other things. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, man. That's the most important thing, is to realize that. Yeah, just to walk. What's wrong with walking an hour and a half or 2 hours without
walking is what brought us to this moment right now. We've been in theatre since then. Since we met each other playing footy, and then started going on walks together, started having this conversation, then we reached a certain level with each other where we're in the dream creation realm. We're still doing it now. We're just sat doing it rather than walking doing it. But that was what we were doing in the first place, was we were walking and having that conversation, but we were doing it not in our heads, we were doing it with each other. Mm-hmm. I think all of these things, and I had a really interesting conversation with a person last week about this, about stories and narrative, and she wants to help me with the story of everything, and she wants to see if she can get it to certain types of places. And it all centered around like what my intention behind it was. And I think that's the interesting thing to kind of center back in on, especially for us too. Like what our intention is with each other, what our intention is with how we can help each other progress, develop, what it was that cultivated our friendship in the first place, what we stand for. Like that all kind of began on those walks.
It did, yeah. Yeah, I think for you and me specifically, what we're trying to do is be as much in a state of being as possible, like being so fully absorbed with each moment that we don't have thoughts about the tomorrow and what's next to us, left and right. It's just being absorbed in the state of being. And I think for that, you need to be able to calm your mind down. Otherwise, it won't work. The moment I talk to you and I think about tomorrow, it takes away from that state of being. Because then I'm thinking that I need to be that thing tomorrow is already, you're separating your true source of being from being that and experiencing that.
This makes me think about sometimes when people text me things, and I say back like, oh, can't wait for Friday, can't wait for Fogo, and I'm like, I'm putting myself there,
Yes.
like that's like I'm right here now.
Yeah.
I can't wait for right now.
For right now,
Like,
exactly.
that's it. Like, yo, I'm just excited and I want to share it.
Yeah, can you live a life where every moment is as precious as the last or the one tomorrow? That's really the question, right?
I think because I'm fully aware of my addiction to my phone and how often I'm on it, I think what I've been doing recently is trying to be more present, specifically in my text responses, because I spend a lot of time texting back, or again, like thinking about comments on Instagram. I spent a lot of time replying to people, but if I imagine that moment as just the eternal moment, I'm present with neither here nor there, I'm right just this, then every single thing I say should be just a nice comment or a nice response, and it shouldn't be specific to what's been or what could be. It should just be about the now. So that's one of the things I'm doing as a kind of the equivalent of doing reps at the gym, but to be in the space of the right now as much as possible, is trying to respond to people as if I'm sat with them directly opposite all the time, to give it. Yeah, I think that's it really.
Yeah, no, it's true, because in order for you to do that, you need to strip yourself as much as possible of memory and projecting into the future. Because what we're doing most of the day through autopilot is we're defining the present moment based on our past memory and then projecting that moment onto the future. But if we would have to strip both of those in order to just be in that moment, then every moment is a reinvention of yourself.
Think
It's
about
like
when
if
you get those best moments then.
Yes, exactly.
Like when you're on holiday
yeah,
or
you don't
something,
think about
you
it.
don't think about that.
Yes.
You're just like, whoa, I'm here. In fact, you do the I can't wait to come back here again.
Mm-hmm.
You do those moments.
I think for me, when I was doing the psychedelics, that pure consciousness that I had at the peak of my trip, it was my pure awareness stripped of the idea of who I was based on my past and my prediction of myself in the future.
You're just a state of pure awe and curiosity at everything that's around you. You're just like, wow,
Yeah,
wow, it's just nuts. Especially when the walls are kind of moving around, there's colours everywhere. But
it's nuts.
you have that, yeah, you just have that pure awe feeling.
Yes, it takes you out of the body-mind experience as yourself. You experience yourself as your true self, if you wanted to.
When else do you
Ask
get
yourself
that?
In our conversations, I get that a lot, because then I look at my watch and it's 2 hours later and I don't realize how that happened because I was so consumed in the moment. So I was literally forgetting about time space. It happens when I play soccer. So it happens, and it happens neurologically every time you're one-pointed with your mind. And the one-pointedness of the mind means your mind is rid of thoughts. And that ridding your mind of thoughts means there's an absence of fear or expectation or desire or importance.
Yeah, man, I get that when I'm making music. I'm looking over at Jack here, just on Ableton. He's in that moment right now. He's in that moment which is just so locked in on the excitement to make things, create things, the excitement of, and again, like, I suppose to some degree when I'm making music, I'm still thinking about, I'm excited to play it to people. I know that what I'm making, I'm also wanting to share. I get it when I'm playing football. I definitely get it when I'm pretty much all the time when I'm talking to you. I get it when I'm with my mum and dad. I'm doing crosswords with my mum and dad in the morning, and I look forward to that. And then when I'm in the moment, I'm just there with them. Dude, if we can just do that more, if we can just be in these moments as much as possible, around the people that make you feel that way. When I'm around other creative people, like if I'm in a studio and we're writing some lyrics to something, or if we're coming up with something that I can see is making other people happy, if I can see people sharing things that they've created and I can help make them feel good about that and encourage it, I get that feeling. Wow, I just want to do that so much more. That's honestly one of the reasons why I've started being in the services for the kids ministry, and at such an impressionable age, I want to be a dad, right? So I have to be putting myself in that position with kids, and it's so rewarding. I'm not doing it for the reward though. I'm doing it because I know that was when I had the most amount of impact on me, when I was going to like teenage Sunday school lessons. So to be able to be in the service of Life's Forgiving, Not Forgetting, makes me feel alive, bro. Makes me feel alive. With these kids coming up to me and asking me for things. I say, where are you? Why do you sound different? It's so beautiful to be able to be a voice for them, a light for them.
You are for a lot of people, adults and kids. I think you're also someone that a lot of your friends look up to. You do a lot of things that are extraordinary. So I think you live that very much by example. And what you're saying essentially is appreciating the moment. For you to fully appreciate every moment, you cannot depreciate the present moment. And the only reason you depreciate the present moment is because of importance. You think that tomorrow's moment is more important than the present moment.
Yes, that's true.
And the way that I realize this about myself, and I've worked on changing that, is a lot of times when I'm just doing something, like brushing my teeth, doing something on autopilot, essentially brushing my teeth, thinking about something, and let's say Alex comes, or I hear Alex singing in the background, right? Most of the times, years ago in my past relationships, I wouldn't even have noticed that anyone is singing. It's like just someone singing. I wouldn't even take the moment for anything important, right? But if you actually realize that what you're doing right now, the brushing the teeth, the thinking about the coffee you're gonna have later, the protein bar you're gonna launch next month, like doing all of that is depreciating the present moment, because you're placing a lot of importance on that and not enough importance on the present moment. You shouldn't be placing importance on either or. You should just be. No importance on the present moment and no importance on tomorrow's moment. Purely being. And what that allows you to do is really enjoying and loving that moment and not feeling like that's a nuisance or that's something annoying. Or when Alex comes and hugs me a lot of times while I'm doing something. Back in the day, I would be like, I really need to finish this work, man. Like, all right, it's good now. Good hug. And now I'm like, what makes me think that me finishing this part is more important than just fully enjoying this moment?
100%, bro.
And you know why? It's because think about why you even think that you need to finish this project. You think you need to finish this project, let's say, because you're going to get more money out of it. Because your boss is going to like you more. Because you're going to get wealthier as a result of that. And then when you're wealthy, you're going to feel love, and you're going to feel freedom, and you feel peace. And now imagine that the feeling that you're attaching to that thing tomorrow is here the very moment you actually turn to the person that wants to give you a hug.
That's the I get this all the time when I'm doing something, like I'm working on something, or I'm in the middle of something that I've committed to, and then some outside factor comes in, and then I'm like, oh, that's annoying. Like even over here, just at the beginning of the podcast, when someone I'd previously worked with came over and sat with us, and I was thinking, oh no, but I need to do this. I'd planned to quickly knock out this edit before Puya got here, so that then we could start the podcast on time. And then this guy's come and interrupted that. But then I had to quickly reframe that in my mind, because he's actually the reason that we had a success from the last event, which was tied back to something that happened before Christmas. So like I was like, actually, hang on a minute, close the laptop, put that over there. Let's just be here for a moment. Like, there's a reason why I keep bumping into this guy everywhere, because we're on the same path. So let's not isolate myself and try and think that I need to be on my computer at this moment. Let's realise that this is something that's been ordained for me, and be right in that moment.
So true. And I think the easiest way to do it, at least for me, is to tell myself that thing is not more important than the present moment. Every time I catch myself thinking about that is not more important than what I'm currently doing or my present moment right now. And to just tell myself, like, this moment right now is not less important or more important than any other moment. It's just there to fully experience. Like that, if you can remember that throughout the day, you're gonna live a more present life. There's no way around it. I think that's what willpower is for. Yeah, we can use willpower to grind, and we can use willpower to make money. But really what willpower is for is to overwrite our natural instinct to devalue the present moment for the illusion of overimportance attached to the future.
Yeah. Yes. What you just said then about, because if, for example, using that last thing as the example, it interrupted what I thought I needed to do in that moment, or what I decided I wanted to do in that moment, which is me staying in my thinking rather than being in the presence
Yes,
of what actually just happened.
exactly.
So I was like, no, I'm not ready for this situation out here. I need to finish this first. Well, I didn't, did I? That's what I thought I needed to do. What I needed to do is actually be like, yo, that's actually sick. What are you doing here? Like,
Yes.
That's cool. Like,
And I
that's
think,
crazy. I'm still learning that, and I feel like I'm learning that all the time.
but isn't that part of the process of moving with God? Isn't that just part of it? Is exactly that. I mean,
Yeah, it's not. Yes. Sorry, I'm interrupting.
yeah,
again.
it's that.
It's just accepting that what happens is always for you.
Yes.
And not the opposite of that.
Correct. And I think the forgiveness part that is related to missing the aim is noticing that when you deviate from appreciating the present moment because you're attaching too much importance on the future, that part in itself is forgiveness too. Because also you don't want to beat yourself up over that either. You need to realize that that's a process you're gonna work on for the rest of your life, unless you're someone who dedicates his life to the present moment, which makes you a monk in the mountains, which most of us are not going to be. So because of that, because we're not going to be in an enlightened state, we're moving towards enlightenment with temporary disruptions thereof. So it's just remembering that and not spiraling when we slip up a moment. To say, yeah, I know that I'm going to practice this forever. And again, I'm just going to repeat it again. Telling yourself that there's nothing I need to do other than be present and appreciate the moment. Or when a future thought comes in, is I'm placing overimportance on that thought. That's it. That's all you need to do to anchor yourself in the present moment again. And what really helped me do that is understanding what it is that is so important for me. And it's typically the same thing for most people. It's related to work, it's related to a bigger project, it's related to being perceived well by other people. So that's always where our thoughts go. And we think that ticking those things off is going to get us towards a point of completion in life. But if you actually think through what a point of completion in life would feel like, it would just feel like a state of freedom.
It would feel like total acceptance for exactly where you are.
Exactly. That's exactly true. And the moment I realized that, it's like, man, I'm kind of like the snake that keeps going around that bites its own tail. That doesn't end. So the understanding thereof is already very relieving. And understanding why those things are so important.
It always seems so simple when you say it like that.
Yeah.
It's because it is.
It's simple, just not easy.
Yeah.
That's the difference. It's a simple process, but it's not easy because we are locked. And I don't want to say locked because it has a negative connotation, but we are in this physical vessel. That physical vessel is given birth to, and it's going to pass. We are in this mind, and this mind is tied to the physical vessel, and this mind is preoccupied with survival. So our thoughts are going to be whatever is tied around survival and increasing the likelihood for us to survive. But our real self, our true self, that is neither body or mind, that is transcending both of those, that thing in itself is already complete. So it's the realization that what you're actually looking for, the state of tranquility, freedom, and peace, it actually is you. And everyone knows that when they just think about the moments they have when time and space goes out of the window. When they're in a pure state of being, that's actually, if you reflect upon that, you understand what you are at the higher level. Once you understand that, you will de-identify to a certain degree with your thoughts and also with your body. And that's where importance for future events will naturally go down. So in the beginning, it's a lot of being aware of those things. But if you can practice that with actually understanding or realizing what you are and that there is nothing to be found because you're already there. And then that present moment is the present moment in which you already are the thing that you're trying to look at.
Yeah.
It's just remembering, like you say, it's for, what is it? Not forgetting, but for remembering.
Yes. Life is forgiving, not forgetting.
Yeah.
And it's for forgiving yourself, forgiving others, and forgetting, well, remembering not to forget. Something like that.
So tomorrow you're playing, bro. Where at? Live?
Live, yeah.
Nice.
I'll be in my my liminal space there. And people say, you know, you're in your element.
Yeah.
That's where I'm in my element. Playing, sharing music with people, sharing emotion, sharing feeling.
You're gonna play it in your track.
Sharing an olive oil.
You're gonna take olive oil?
I'll take some olive oil, yeah.
Which olive oil are you drinking currently?
I don't have a particular one. I've got a nice one that I can't remember the name of it though.
The one that I've been...
I want to get a fancy one together though. Should we get a nice one? Remember we got the one for Jordan? Let's get one of them.
Let's get one of them. Air One has one that is like $90, but apparently it won a bunch of awards, and it's even on the bottle. This is a supplement olive oil.
Oh, let's do it.
So that one is gonna burn.
Let's get that.
That's the one I want. The ones that I've been trying are too mild.
Oh, we want a zinger.
Zing,
Yeah,
like burn.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what I want.
Let's get that.
The high polyphenol count.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1,200 at least.
Yes. Is it 1,200? Is that the number?
I think so.
Okay.
I've heard some rumors.
I want to do that.
Yeah, let's do it next time.
All right, cool, man.
Let's get one for next week.
Wicked.
Nice one, bud.
Nice one, man.
Milo Bruder.
Forgive me for not knowing you didn't get married, bro.
Forgive me for running that game.
All right, bro. Cheers, man.